Hey, I'm Cameron McKenzie at CameronMCNZ on Twitter, and I wanted to talk to you about using the latest version of Tomcat in Eclipse. Even if the Tomcat version is so new, there's no run on server option for that version. Look at this, I've got the latest version of Apache Tomcat running right here, version 10, but if I go over to Eclipse and try and set up a new server for Apache Tomcat 10, look what happens. It is not available. So should I give up? Should I not use Apache Tomcat 10? Absolutely not. There's a couple little Maven tricks that you can use to start using Apache Tomcat 10, and you really don't miss too much by not having that server set up. So let me create a brand new Maven project here, and I'm going to start using some Jakarta Servlet APIs here. Just watch in amazement. I'm going to skip the simple project setup, click next, and set up the coordinates for my Gav here, artifact ID, servlet 5 API, make it version, might as well make it version 5, make it a WAR file, click finish, and watch all sorts of errors happen. And I do get some errors here initially, and that's only because I've said I'm going to create a WAR file. And of course, I don't have a web.xml file here. And that's easily addressed. There's a couple of properties I need to set up inside of this POM file right off the bat. Throw them in there, basically say I want to work with JDK 11. That's important for if you're going to be using Jakarta EE 9, which I will be very soon. And also look at this one here, fail on missing web.xml. I'm going to set that to false. Okay, as soon as I click save there, Control S, that error magically goes away. Now I did say that I'm going to be using the Jakarta Servlet APIs. That's why I've got Tomcat 10 over there. Does mean that I need to add a few dependencies in here. So, well, really I need to add one dependency in here, and that's on the Jakarta Web APIs. Now, I don't think Tomcat 10 supports all of the Jakarta Web APIs, but it's going to support servlets and JSPs, and that's all I need right now. Now, how do you get this to work with Tomcat and be able to kind of deploy quickly without having to constantly go back and stop and start Tomcat and stuff like that? Well, Maven comes to the rescue in this condition here. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to throw in a couple of build parameters here, and then I'm going to talk you through them. So hold your horses, watch what goes on here, and boom, I've thrown in a couple of build parameters. Let me see if I can format that nicely. Actually, there's a nice little format in there. What I've done, I'm going to skip the clean plugin for now. I've added the Apache WAR plugin. And what I've done is I've said, you know what, anytime I build this program, anytime I do Maven install, what I want to do is that jar file that gets created, I want it to be named servlet5api.war, not jar file, war file that gets created. I want it to be called servlet5api.war, and I want it to be deployed not to the target folder, but over here into that Tomcat 10 web apps folder. That's exactly where Tomcat has been installed. You can see right there. That's all of the Tomcat installation right there in my tools folder. And of course, any web application you want to deploy should go right into this web apps folder right in here. Now, you know what? Yeah, I think that's where all of our applications should go. And that is exactly where I'm pointing to right here. Now, one of the problems is if there's already a WAR file in there, this plugin will fail if it tries to overwrite it. So what I've done is I've included the Maven Clean plugin as well, which says, hey, if you find a WAR file in that web apps directory, delete it. The clean always happens before the install, before the deploy function of Maven. And so by adding this Maven Clean plugin, it'll make sure that that WAR file gets deleted from the web apps directory as well. Now I've used wildcards here. You might want to just change that to servlet5api.war so every single WAR file you're working on doesn't get deleted, but I'm going to keep it simple for this example here. And so that's the key. You just want a WAR file set up like this, right? Set up your WAR file, reference the Jakarta EE web APIs, do the Maven plugin so that the WAR file gets saved to this directory, and then set up the clean so that it gets deleted just before it gets written every single time. Now I'm going to click Control S there. I'm going to go into my Java code for a little bit, and specifically go into my web apps folder. I'm going to create a little JSP because I'm actually going to do a full deployment here. I'm going to call it index.jsp. And I'm just going to go hello world. And then I always like to do just a little bit of actual Java code. So percentage equals new java.util.date. If that works, that just proves that things are actually compiling on the server side. So we'll say the time on the server is And now if this all runs and works, then, well, indeed, I am actually deploying to Tomcat. So I'm just going to right click on this. Actually, I think I need to just do a Maven update. I can see a little white X there. A lot of people say that's a red X that you see over there. It is not a red X. It is a white X on a red background. But yeah, that Maven update made that go away. Now I'm actually just going to go and do a run as a Maven install. So I might download a Maven resource or two. But you can see here that Servlet 5 API war file has been created. If I mosey on over into the web apps folder, I'll now see this Servlet 5 API war file that wasn't there before in this folder, which is the deployed application. And so now, I guess the only thing left to do is actually see if we can bring up that JSP file, and let's do it inside of Eclipse, just like we would if we were saying run as run on server. Now I have to do a little trick here. I have to take that POM file and say, hey, open that up in the web browser. So you just right click on that, say open up, bring up the web browser. Now that's not what I want to look at. What I want to look at is localhost 8080 Servlet 5 API. And we could see before that, the Tomcat server is running on port 8080. I'll click enter here, and there we go. Hello world, the time on the server is. That was called index.jsp. That comes up by default. If you named your file something else, you have to type that in explicitly. But you can see, yeah, this is actually working and giving me the time on the server, which is the same as my local machine because they are one and the same in this instance. But you do get the idea that it's working. And of course, I can now come over here and make a change here. Now that's not going to get updated immediately, but all I have to do is just say run as a Maven install. The Maven install runs. You notice over here, I think we get a timestamp difference of 541. So that was just created. It was redeployed. And if I go over here and do a little refresh, you notice that it's actually updated. And so there you go. All I have to do now is just do a little, instead of saying run as run on server, I just have to say run as Maven install. And then each time I go to this page, I just have to do a refresh. And there you go, inside Eclipse. And I'm using the latest version of Maven 10. You can do this with Pyara. You can do this with Liberty. If you want to use the latest server, and maybe it's not configurable through that server's window, Maven to the rescue. And there you go. That's how easy it is to configure the latest edition of Tomcat inside of Eclipse, even if Eclipse doesn't support that particular version with their little servers view. Now, if you enjoyed that tutorial, why don't you head over to theserverside.com? I'm the editor-in-chief over there. Got lots of great tutorials on Tomcat, enterprise software development, Jakarta EE, DevOps, you name it. If you're interested in my personal antics, you can follow me on Twitter @CameronMCNZ and subscribe on YouTube.